It started with a Reddit thread. I know that sounds cliche as hell, but that's how all the best conspiracy theories are born, right? Some random user posts about weird stuff in a forgotten corner of the internet, and next thing you know, you're spiraling down a rabbit hole at 3 a.m., wondering if you'll ever look at the world the same way again. This thread was titled Gas Station of the Damned, Coordinates Inside. It had been buried on a dead subreddit about urban legends and mysteries, untouched for 3 years. The original post had been deleted, but the comments were still there. The station shows up at night and vanishes by sunrise. If you go inside, you don't come back out, or you come back different. Someone live streamed it once. I saw shadows moving behind them, then the stream cut off. The more I read, the more intrigued I became. I've always been drawn to this kind of stuff. Deep web urban legends, ghost stories that feel a little too real. But this was different. There were coordinates buried in the comments. They pointed to an empty lot in the middle of nowhere, just outside a ghost town called Ashford. Google Earth showed nothing but cracked asphalt and overgrown weeds, but one commenter swore it had been a bustling gas station in the 90s. Until it wasn't. I didn't tell anyone I was going. My friends think my obsession with this stuff is stupid. Dark web horror stories are just that. Stories. But something about this felt different. Authentic. And if it wasn't, well, a road trip sounded like a good way to shake off the monotony of my desk job. I got there just before sunset. The lot looked exactly like it did on Google Earth. Cracked asphalt, knee-high weeds, and a few rusting poles where gas pumps used to be. There was no sign of a building, just an empty lot surrounded by scrubby trees and the endless hum of cicadas. For a moment, I felt like an idiot. What was I expecting? A neon sign blinking, "Welcome. Idiot who believes in ghost gas stations." I took a few pictures, marked the coordinates on my phone, and waited. The first sign of something was the smell. It started faint like gasoline, but sharper, more metallic. It grew stronger as the sun dipped lower until it was all I could taste. I turned back to my car, ready to call it a bust when I heard the hum. It was so faint at first that I thought I was imagining it. Then it grew louder, low, electric, vibrating through the air. My eyes darted back to the lot, and that's when I saw it. The gas station was just there. One moment, the lot was empty. The next, there it stood, a squat, flickering building bathed in pale fluorescent light. The windows were blacked out, and the sign above the door was blank, just a glowing white rectangle. I don't know what possessed me to step closer. Curiosity, I guess. Or maybe the same thing that made the gas station appear in the first place. The door slid open as I approached, letting out a puff of stale, icy air. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a single notification from an app I didn't remember installing. Welcome to the stream. I stared at the screen, confused. Before I could react, the notification vanished. I looked back at the gas station. Its lights flickered like a bad connection. The hum grew louder, vibrating in my skull. And then, without thinking, I stepped inside. The door slid shut behind me with a hiss, and for a moment, all I could hear was the electric buzz of the fluorescent lights. The smell of gasoline was overpowering now, mixed with something else. Something metallic, like blood. Inside, the gas station looked normal at first glance. Rows of shelves lined with snacks, drinks, and other essentials. A counter near the front with an old cash register. The faint whir of a refrigerator somewhere in the back. But it didn't feel right. The shelves were stocked with products that looked like they belonged in another decade. Faded labels, prices stamped in cents, brands I didn't recognize. The drinks in the cooler had long, unfamiliar names written in blocky, foreign-looking letters. And the magazines by the counter? I flipped through one. The pages were filled with warped, distorted faces, models and celebrities that almost looked human, but not quite. Their eyes were too large, their smiles stretched too wide, and their skin smooth to the point of looking artificial. I set the magazine down, trying to steady my breathing. The air was cold, so cold I could see my breath fogging in front of me. When I glanced toward the door, my stomach dropped. It was gone. No sliding glass, no lot beyond, no trace of the world I had just come from. There was only a blank white wall, smooth and seamless like it had always been there. I should have panicked. I should have screamed, pounded on the wall, done something. But instead, I did what any good conspiracy theorist would do. I pulled out my phone. No signal. Not even a single bar. The coordinates app I'd been using to track the lot was frozen, stuck on a blank screen. But the strange app from before, the one that had sent me the notification, was still there. Its icon was a glitching white square. When I opened it, a single line of text flashed across the screen. Welcome to the stream. We're watching. The screen flickered, and then I saw myself. A live feed of me, standing right there in the middle of the gas station, looking at my phone. The angle was high, like it was being filmed from one of the security cameras in the corners of the ceiling. I looked up. The cameras weren't there. That's when I heard the first sound, the faint scrape of something heavy being dragged across the floor. It came from the back of the station, past the refrigerators. I don't know what possessed me to move toward it. Maybe it was morbid curiosity, or maybe it was the feeling that whatever was happening here was far bigger than me. I'd spent years chasing down dark web stories, hunting for proof of some twisted underbelly of the internet that was more than just rumors. This felt like proof. I stepped slowly toward the sound, the fluorescent lights buzzing louder above me with every step. My shadow stretched and warped on the floor, twisting in ways that didn't match my movements. As I rounded the corner near the refrigerators, I saw the back office door. It was slightly ajar, a sliver of darkness spilling out into the bright, sterile light of the station. The scraping sound was louder now, rhythmic like something was being dragged back and forth across the concrete. I pushed the door open. The office was small and cluttered with old equipment and paperwork. A single desk lamp flickered in the corner, casting long shadows across the room. And in the center of it all was the computer. It was ancient, an old CRT monitor hooked up to a yellowed tower that looked like it hadn't been touched since the 90s. The screen glowed faintly, lines of green text scrolling faster than I could read. The dragging sound stopped. I turned around, my heart pounding, but the room was empty. When I looked back at the computer, the screen had changed. The scrolling text was gone, replaced by a single word blinking in the center of the screen. Fu, watch. Against every instinct I had, I sat down in the chair. The second I touched the keyboard, the screen shifted again. A video feed blinked to life, grainy and flickering with static. It showed the gas station, but not the one I was sitting in. This one was different. The walls were blackened and crumbling, the shelves empty and broken. The fluorescent lights were dim, casting long shadows that seemed to crawl and twist on their own. And in the middle of the screen, there was a figure. It was me. At least, it looked like me. But the longer I stared, the more I noticed the differences. The skin was too pale, the movements too stiff, the eyes dark and empty. And then the figure turned to face the camera. Its mouth stretched open in a wide, unnatural grin, and I swear I could feel its gaze meeting mine through the screen. A sharp click snapped me out of my trance. When I looked back at the screen, the feed was gone, replaced by a new message. We're coming. Before I could react, the room went dark. The lights outside the office flickered and buzzed violently, casting flashes of light and shadow through the cracks in the door. And then I heard it. Footsteps. They were slow and deliberate, getting louder with each passing second. Something was walking through the gas station. I slammed the office door shut, pressing my back against it as my mind raced. The footsteps stopped just outside, and for a moment all I could hear was my ragged breathing. Then came the knock. Soft at first, almost polite. Then louder. I backed away from the door as it began to rattle, the hinges groaning under the force of whatever was on the other side. The computer screen flickered back to life behind me, casting the room in an eerie green glow. Foo. Run. I didn't need to be told twice. The office door exploded inward, shattering into splinters as I dove out of the way. A deafening hum filled the air, vibrating so hard it felt like my teeth were going to rattle out of my skull. Something stepped inside. I couldn't see it, just a shadow in the flickering light, tall and thin, its movements jerky like a marionette being yanked by invisible strings. The air around it seemed to bend and distort, the edges of its shape blurring like it wasn't entirely here. It turned its head toward me, though it didn't have eyes. Not really. Just two deep, empty voids that seemed to swallow the light around them. And then it smiled. Its mouth stretched impossibly wide, teeth sharp and jagged, lips peeling back almost to its ears. I froze, paralyzed by that grin. Every instinct in me screamed to move, to run, but I couldn't. Then it spoke. Not with words, but with a low, buzzing hum that resonated deep in my chest. It wasn't a sound, it was a feeling. A message pressed into my brain like static from an old TV. You wanted to see the truth. The words filled my head, twisting and doubling over themselves like a chorus of broken voices. And then it lunged. I scrambled out of the way, just in time, the thing's long, claw-like fingers slamming into the floor where I'd been crouched a moment before. The tiles cracked under the force, splintering like glass. I didn't stop to look back. I bolted through the gas station, weaving between shelves and displays as the thing followed, its jerky, unnatural movements faster than they had any right to be. The store was changing around me. The aisles stretched longer and twisted in impossible directions, folding back on themselves like an endless maze. Every time I turned a corner, I found myself somewhere I shouldn't be. Back at the refrigerators, at the counter, near the office again. The fluorescent lights flickered violently, casting the thing's shadow on the walls. It was getting closer. I ran for the counter, hoping, praying, that there was some way out. The front door was still gone, replaced by that same seamless white wall, but behind the counter was a narrow hallway I hadn't noticed before. I sprinted down it, the hum of the creature growing louder behind me. The hallway seemed to stretch endlessly, the walls closing in, the floor tilting at impossible angles. I felt like I was running straight into a nightmare, but I didn't have a choice. Finally, I saw a heavy metal door at the end of the hall, covered in rust and scratches. It was the only way forward. I threw my shoulder into it, slamming it open, and stumbled into another gas station. It was identical to the one I just left. Same shelves, same refrigerators, same blank white sign above the door. But this one was darker, the lights dim and flickering, the shadows deeper and more oppressive. And there was something else. People. They were standing in the aisles, frozen in place like mannequins. Their heads were tilted at odd angles, their eyes wide and blank. Some of them looked fresh. Normal, like they could have been customers who'd walked in just a few hours ago. Others were rotting, Their skin hung loose and gray, their clothes tattered and stained. One of them turned to look at me as I stumbled forward, its neck cracking loudly as it moved. "Help us," it whispered, its voice wet and guttural. I backed away, heart pounding. The humming sound was back, louder than ever, and I realized the creature was still behind me. It stepped into the new station, its grin somehow even wider, its head twitching from side to side like it was savoring the moment. The frozen people began to move, turning toward it in unison. Their blank eyes locked onto the creature, and for a moment I thought they were going to attack it. But then they started to laugh. The sound was hollow, mechanical, like a recording played on loop. It echoed through the station, growing louder and louder until it was all I could hear. I turned and ran again, ducking between aisles as the shadows stretched and twisted around me. The people didn't follow, but their laughter did, echoing in my ears long after I'd left them behind. I found myself back at the counter. The old computer was there, flickering with the same grainy green text. "There is no way out." I slammed my fists against the desk. "What the hell do you want from me?" The screen flickered. The camera feed came back, showing me standing there in real time, pale and shaking. But this time, there was something else in the frame. Behind me. It was the creature, standing just inches away, its grin stretching so wide its face was starting to split apart. I spun around, but it wasn't there. The room was empty. When I looked back at the screen, the feed had changed again. It wasn't showing me anymore, it was showing the gas station. But not just one. Dozens of them. Hundreds. A grid of identical stations, all flickering and buzzing with that same fluorescent hum. In each one there was someone like me, running, screaming, hiding, dying. The text on the screen shifted one final time. "Welcome to the network." And then the screen went dark. The lights in the gas station flickered one last time before going out completely, plunging me into pitch blackness. For a moment, there was silence. No hum, no laughter, no footsteps. Just the sound of my own breathing, ragged and shallow. Then I heard the door slide open. When I turned around, I wasn't in the gas station anymore. I was standing in an empty lot under the pale light of the moon. The station was gone, and my car was sitting there, just where I'd left it. I climbed inside, shaking, and drove. I didn't look back. That was 3 days ago. I've tried to tell myself it wasn't real, that it was just some sick prank or a hallucination. But then my phone buzzed this morning with a notification. It was from the same app. "Welcome to the stream." I opened it, against my better judgment. It was me, sitting in my apartment, typing this post. But in the corner of the frame, I saw it. The shadow. It's here. I don't think I can run this time.